السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإن شرط الضمن للآخرة فسدت لأنه شرط يؤدي إلى قطع الشركة بأن لا يخرج إلا الضمن واستحقاق غير صاحب البدن بالشرط. قال: وإذا صحت المزارعة فالخارج على الشرط لصحة الالتزام.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. ونور قلوبنا بمعرفتك واحشر صدورنا بنور كتابك وسنة نبيك واحفظنا عن زلل وخطأ في بيان مرادك. صلى الله على النبي الأمي. So we left out one masala also from what we were discussing, that if they place a shart that for one of them will be half of the stalks and half of the grains and so forth, what will be the outcome? So the last one is ولو شرطا على حب نصفين وتبني صاحب بصحة, that if they place a stipulation that the grains will go half and the tibn, the stalks, will be for the person who provided the seeds, and this will be correct. لأنه حكم العقد, and because this is the ruling of the transaction, and saying that the tibn is the nama, it is the growth of his ownership, so he's entitled to it in any case. In other words, this is according to, in other words, it doesn't go against the transaction. These conditions do not make it fasid because it doesn't go against what the transaction is all about. وإن شرطا التبن للآخر فسدت. However, if they place it as a condition that the tibn will belong to the other person, meaning the person who did not provide the grains, then فسدت. لأنه شرط يؤدي إلى قطع الشركة, because this will lead to a condition. This condition will lead to the sharika, to the partnership being dissolved, being not found. Understand? Because now that person is getting more than what is entitled to. بألا يخرج إلا التبن, or in this way, that nothing emerges from the crops except the tibn. واستحقاق غير صاحب بالشرط, and as a result, the person who is not the owner of the seeds, he will be entitled to it because of the shart, because of the condition. It's something which is not entitled to it to begin with. Understood that?
Yeah.
قال إمام قدور رحمة الله, Imam Qudur رحمة الله says, نفع الله بعلومه وبعلوم مشايخنا ومساتذنا وبكم. إذا صحت المزارعة فالخارج على الشرط بصحة الالتزام. That if the muzara'a contract has been undertaken in a correct manner. Now we go to the produce, how that will be divided. So they're saying then the produce will be divided according to whatever was stipulated. While is لصحة الالتزام, because the contract was right, the responsibilities that come from it, the entitlement that comes from it, this will also be correct. So whatever was stipulated, that person will be entitled to it, he must by necessity receive that. وإن لم تخرج الأرض شيئا فلا شيء للعامل. However, if the earth doesn't produce anything, then the worker, the laborer, will not be entitled to anything. لأنه يستحق شركة. Why? Because he was only entitled to the produce as a partner. ولا شركة في غير الخارج. And there's no partnership in anything else but the produce. So no produce, no partnership, no entitlement. And he can't claim anything for his labor, because that was supposed to be the price of his labor. It was supposed to be the product of his efforts. Understood? وإن كانت إجارة فالأجر مسمى فلا يستحق غيره. And if this was an act of ijara, if it was renting the land to this person, then the amount would have been stipulated, how much rent is entitled to, or how much ijara, how much wages is entitled to. فلا يستحق غيره. So he's not entitled to anything other than that. بخلاف ما إذا فسدت, and contrary to where the transaction was fasid, which we did above. So even if it was an act of ijara, even if he had been hired to do a particular job, and the earth didn't produce anything, understand? Then in that case, you will only be entitled to what he was, to the payment that he was entitled to, nothing more than that. This is contrary to where, as we did above, contrary to where if the muzara is fasid, then there we did, he's entitled to ajrul mithal. He's entitled to the going wage for his efforts. Why? لأن أجر المثل في الذمة. Why? Because the going rate, or the going rate of his wages, is some which is the liability of the person, becomes the liability of the person who hired him or entered into this contract with him. ولا تفوت الذمة بعدم الخارج. In this case here, that liability is not waived because of the absence of the produce. Okay, because in the case of the transaction becoming fasid, so it's no longer a partnership. See? And because it's no longer a partnership, it remains, he remains responsible, the owner, landowner remains responsible for the work that this person has done. Because now there's no transaction that exists between them. Okay? So as a result of that, that person who did the work becomes entitled to a wage. So even though there was no produce, he is still entitled to that wage because he done his job. He is not responsible for the absence or the existence of the produce. Okay.
Yeah.
قال وإذا فسدت فالخارج لصاحب البذر. Right now, if the transaction becomes fasid and something was produced, then the produce belongs to the person who provided the seeds. If it was the laborer, it is his. If it is the landowner, it's his. لأنه نماء ملكي. Why? Because this is the produce of his ownership, which is the seeds. واستحقاق الآخر بالتسمية. And the other person was only entitled to it because of stipulation, because this is what they had agreed to. In other words, he was only entitled to it because of an agreement. وقد فسدت, but that agreement has become fasid, has become invalid. So can say, so therefore not entitled to anything as such. He was only entitled to it because of an agreement and understanding between the two. But that agreement is now null and void. So the only thing that remains is what? The produce. فبقى النماء كله لصاحب البذر. So therefore, all of the produce will belong to the person who supplied the seed. Okay?
Yeah.
Notice that?
Yeah.
الحمد لله. قال ولو كان البذر من قبل رب الأرض فللعامل أجر مثله. Now again, if it became fasid and the seed was from the side of the landowner, then the worker is entitled to a going wage. And he's entitled to the normal wage for a person who does that kind of work. لا يزاد على مقدار ما شرط له. However, it should be such, the wage, that it does not exceed the amount that is stipulated in the agreement, which became fasid. So for example, they had stipulated that you get 50% of the crops, and 50% of the crops would have come to, for example, 10,000 rand. And the going rate for his work is 12,000 rand. You'll only get 10,000. You have to take a knock of 2,000. It must not exceed the going wage, must not exceed what he would have received had the deal not become fasid, had the muzara not become fasid. So this we did touch on before, because according to Imam Sahib, it is fasid from the beginning. So this is now also so this is the explanation for Sahibain. If it becomes fasid, then basically the Masala returns to what Imam Sahib said right from the beginning. لأنه رضي بالسكوت زيادة. Why? Because he was happy to waiver the extra by him agreeing to taking only X amount of the produce, 50%, which amounted to less than what he would have gotten as a laborer. He was happy from the beginning to waiver that extra. Follow? وهذا عند أبي حنيفة وأبي يوسف رحمه الله تعالى. This is according to Shaykhain. وقال محمد رحمه الله, the Imam Muhammad رحمه الله says, له أجر مثلي بالغا ما بلغ. He is entitled to his wage irrespective of how much it is, whether it's less than or more than. لأنه يستوفى منافعه بعقد فاسد. Why? Because he had received in full his benefit through an active fasid. فيجب عليه قيمتها. So therefore it is compulsory upon him the value of it, the value of that benefit. إذ لا مثل لها. Because there is no method of it. Remember we did before. There are certain things is dawatul qiyam and certain things are dawatul amthal. Understand? Now in the case of manafi, it's not from dawatul amthal, it's from dawatul qiyam. So because the person has received, the person who owns the land has received in full, and the sahib will be there. He was also the sahib will be there. He has received the benefit of this person's labor. So therefore, from that point perspective, he is liable to pay the value of that labor, irrespective of how much it is. وقد مر في الإيجارات, and this discussion already passed in إيجارات, in the rental, the book of rental. Should I bring the thing, please? Understood that?
Okay.
Any questions?
الحمد لله نسيت هذا.
Right. Now, وإن كان من قبل العامل. If the seed is provided from the laborer, فلصاحب الأرض أجر مثله أجر مثل أرضه. This also mentioned before. Then the landowner will be entitled to the rental going rate of renting such a land. لأنه استوفى منافع الأرض بعقد فاسد. Why? Because he, the amir, has taken in full the benefit of the earth through a transaction which is invalid. فيجب رد. So now it is compulsory for him to return it. وقد تعذر. Obviously he can't give it back because again it's منافي ذوات القيم not ذوات الأمثال. ولا مثل لها. فيجب رد قيمتها. So because he can't give the like of it back, he has to pay back the value of it. Okay, which is the أجر مثل, which is the rent, which is what that land would normally cost for a person to rent. وهل يزاد على ما شرط له من الخارج فهو على الخلاف الذي ذكرناه. And will he be entitled to the extra over and above what they had stipulated of the produce? So the same ikhtilaf is here. According to Shaykhain, he will not be entitled to anything extra. According to Imam Muhammad Ahmad, he is entitled to whatever such a land would have cost the laborer to rent. Follow?
Okay.
Good. Like I said, this mas'ala was touched upon earlier, just now the details of it. ولو جمع بين الأرض والبقر حتى فسدت المزارعة فعلى الآمل أجر مثل الأرض والبقر. And if they had, if there was from one person, both the landowner had provided the cow, meaning the tools as well. حتى فسدت المزارعة, which we mentioned before, this will lead to a muzara'a bin fasid. And this is not a correct surah, this is not a correct way of conducting the muzara'a. So in such an instance, فعلى العامل أجر مثل الأرض والبقر, then he has to pay the going rate of both the land and the use of the tools. Okay? He has to pay both double in this case. وهو الصحيح, this is the correct opinion, لأنه له مدخل في الإجارة وهي إجارة معنى. Why? Because the cow has a role to play in the ijara. And you're using the cow to till the land, or the tools in our modern day world, using the tools to plow the land, to till the land, to treat the land. So therefore, it has a role to play in the ijara, and so therefore, it will be like you rented that ma'anan, as if you rented it separately and ma'anan. Okay. وإذا استحق رب الأرض الخارج لبذره في المزارع الفاسدة طاب له جميعه. And if the Rabb the landowner, becomes entitled to all of the produce because of his supply of the seeds in a muzara fasida, it is permissible for him to take all of it, all of the produce. لأن النماء حصل في أرض مملوكة له. Why? Because this produce, this growth, was obtained in a land which belongs to him. وإن استحقه العامل أخذ قدر بذره وقدر أجل الأرض. And if the amil becomes entitled to it because he supplied the seed, then you will be entitled to take that produce which is equal to the amount of seeds provided and equal to the value of the land, the value of the renting of the land. وتصدق بالفضل, and anything more than that, you must give away in sadaqah. لأن النماء يحصل أو يحصل من البذر, because the growth was obtained from the seeds. ويخرج من الأرض. Because ويخرج وما يخرج. Yeah. So the growth was obtained from the seeds, and that came out from the earth, that emerged from the earth. Okay. وفساد الملك في المنافع الأرض أوجب خبثا فيه. And the facade of ownership in the benefit of the land, thus it necessitates some kind of khabath, like you can say some kind of karaha in the wealth which he has earned. Okay, by this transaction becoming fasid, it is almost as if the wealth which he has earned, there is a stain on it. So it's not 100% halal. فما سلم له بعوض طاب له. So whatever is in lieu of something, in lieu of his seed and in lieu of the land, that's fine, that is permissible. وما لا عوض له, and that which for which there is no exchange, or there's no exchange, تصدق به, it's better if he gives it away in charity. So anything above what he is entitled to, it is almost like similar to riba. It's almost like he's taking more than what he is entitled to. And because this transaction becomes fasid, there's a stain on that extra. You follow? And now he's going on to a different masala, discussing a different masala. And that is, if before or after, right, the two different surahs, if before he planted the seeds, the person refuses to do the work, or if he does, or if after planting the seeds, he refuses to do the work. In other words, there's like a clash between them, some kind of clash argument which arises. Then what will be the masala? in those instances. So I'll look at that next week inshallah.
inshallah.
Inshallah, بإذن الله تعالى. تقبل الله منا ومنكم. Inshallah, try to recite as much as salawat as possible. Friday, essential to prayer. Other surahs as well. Make a lot of dua for yourself, for your asatid, our parents, and the whole ummah at large, inshallah. Especially the mujahideen and the madlumeen, wherever they are in the world, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله